Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Films and Stuff podcast. As you can tell from my voice, I'm a very enthusiastic Ethan, joined by most valuable Pete. Hey, Pete, what's up?
Not much, buddy. How are you?
Big episode today for two reasons. One, season 4 of The Boys is here. We've been waiting how long? 2 years?
Seems like it. It's been a while. I can't remember when the last season came out.
I think it's been 2 years, interrupted by Gen V. It seemed like it hasn't been as long because of that. And the Acolyte, which is kind of Star Wars on Disney Plus, right?
I mean, technically.
Let's talk about
Let's
The
start
Boys.
with the good.
We have watched 3 seasons of The Boys. Where would you put it generally in terms of the Films and Stuff hierarchy? Is it a skip? Is it a mooch? Is it a must subscribe for Amazon?
I think overall it's a must subscribe.
I fully agree. I have to say, it's actually one of my favorite shows for more than one reason. In a day and age where I am even getting a little bit of superhero fatigue, I have no fatigue over The Boys because I think that it is not a superhero show.
Yes, and I think you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah. If you look at it, you would think, oh, this is about superheroes, and it's supposed to be kind of like this satirical take maybe on superheroes. And I think it's less a commentary on superheroes, and it's really I don't want to say a cultural commentary because that sounds so political, but it's a commentary on like humans more than anything, right?
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right in the sense that it's a show that has superheroes in it, but it is not a superhero show. It's about the nature of what it means to have too much power. In this case, that power comes in the form of superheroes.
Yeah.
But that's not the only thing, right? So it's just that these are real, not real, obviously, but these are human beings in...
They're real problems.
These are real. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. The people who are quote unquote the good guys aren't really good, and the quote unquote bad guys aren't really bad. There's a lot of mixed upness, to use a technical term, in terms of like who we like or don't like, who we align or don't align with, right? The lowest hanging fruit is Homelander, right? Who is satirical Superman, I guess, right? And Homelander is supposed to be the goodest of good guys, right? He's supposed to be Superman. By attitude and by behavior, he is a bad guy in the show. Yet, I can't help but to feel like he's actually the most, I don't know, the most real, but like his issues and problems are very, very relatable, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I say that because neither you and I are fathers. He is a father who is experiencing, you know, the most real challenges of parenthood, right? Which is having your son, like looking out for your son's future, wanting the best for him, and, you know, being very jealous and frustrated when you feel as though your son doesn't look up to you and is instead has another role model in their life, right? I mean, this is for probably millions of men around the world. This is a real challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Those other men don't have the ability to fly or shoot lasers out of their eyes or so on and so forth. But the human problems for Homelander are very, very real and hit home, I think, for a lot of people, right? And I think that's, I mean, not because of the parenting issues I like this show, but I like the show because every character is very, very complex. And I think the storylines are fantastic. And somehow or another, unlike many other shows we've complained of, they keep introducing characters and keeping it very, very fresh, right? Like a lot of people have died. There's a new Black Noir, right? Who's a scene stealer, right?
Yeah, hilarious.
I mean, is he anything? I mean, spoiler alerts, of course. We've watched the first 3 episodes that were released all at once. Black Noir, as we know, from the first 3 seasons, was a strong and silent ninja.
Yeah.
Who's the equivalent of the guy in G.I. Joe, who he was? Not Storm Shadow, the opposite of Snake Eyes, right? He is Snake Eyes, right? Does not speak, very, very mild-mannered. And then in the end of season 3, we see a little bit of his backstory with Soldier Boy and, so on and so forth. Homelander, rips his intestines out. And then very confusingly, we see him in season 4, right?
Yeah, he was a faceless, masked guy.
I was first confused and then thought, wait a second, like, is this a production issue? Like, did they think that maybe we wouldn't notice and they just kind of like briefly had him at the table because it was filmed somehow else? And then you see in the second and third episode, basically Vought doesn't want, I don't know, people to know that he died or to explain like what happened. So they said, look, like, let's just hire a guy, put him in the same suit, and no one will be the wiser. We don't have to like say that the guy like was killed by Homelander, right?
Yeah.
So they get another guy and say like, hey, you're an actor, get in the suit. And that guy's a scene stealer. He's talking and everyone's like, dude, you don't talk. Stop talking. He's like very animated and everyone's always telling him like, dude, like sit still. That's not your character. And he's expressing like all this internal angst in terms of, hey, what's my character? What's my motivation? Like, what should be my mindset here? And everyone's basically telling him like, dude, don't do anything. Just sit still, be quiet. And he's a very active person, right?
Yeah.
Who they put in a suit. So, I mean, I think that's a good example of someone dies and they find a very creative, humorous way, to kind of continue that character. They've reintroduced and they've brought 2 new people into the 7, right? They brought Sister Sage and Firecracker. So, I mean, I think they've done a really good job of keeping things fresh, with that show, and that they have not hesitated to kill off characters. But at the same time, they've brought in new characters that are in their own way equally compelling. And that's really helped, I think, the narrative and keep this after 4 seasons. That's 4 seasons. It's tough to kind of keep a show on track, right?
This is the penultimate season. So they just confirmed, I think this last weekend, that season 5 is going to be the last season. So expect the stakes in this season to go through the roof.
Yeah, that's right. Did you watch all 3 episodes so far?
I did, yeah.
What's your thought? Like, are you on board?
This is going to sound not good, but it is good in the sense that I'm not 100% on board yet. And the reason is not because I think the show has gotten worse. I think it's just my expectations are being met in the sense that there's a lot of action, there's a lot of gore, there's a lot of, sociopath behavior, that sort of thing. I don't know where the show is going yet. And until the main plot line of this season is kind of clarified, and I imagine it will be in the next 2 episodes, I imagine that I will be fully on board.
I think that's you're right. I think that's a compliment because after you've seen 3 seasons of a show, you probably really, really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right. And that 4th season, you have a level of expectation. And if that show meets your expectations, that's really the best compliment. It's really hard in a 4th season to be like, whoa, I love this show. But now my love is at like a different level, that's very hard to do. Right. So I think the fact that your expectations are met, I think is a huge compliment to the show, to the writers who I'm always impressed with how they come up with stuff. They are so, I think, in tune with, I don't know, they just seem to be so in tune with like stuff.
Yeah.
That their jokes, I think, are just very, very spot on,
It's a very dark sense of humor. It's the kind of sense of humor that a lot of people, I'm sure, would have in their private, message groups with their friends
Yeah.
that they wouldn't necessarily share out loud.
Yeah.
And also, what's good is that this show is reasonably well timed with what's going on culturally around the world now.
Yeah, there's a lot of political undertone here, which
Yeah, I would actually even go so far as to say overtone, because it's very
yeah,
overt, right?
yeah,
Where they're sowing discord, where, again, spoiler alert, Sage is basically trying to say, hey, let's use this division of the
yeah,
Seven versus the Starlight group and create what would effectively be a civil war. You come in and quell that war, and guess what? You're now seen as the hero of the world.
yeah. You talk about the dark humor, and I think I mentioned on a previous episode, I watched Three Body Problem with
Yeah.
my brother and sister, and we loved it. I would not watch this show with my brother or my sister.
No way.
It
No way,
is-
no how.
It is way too, not because of the vulgarity, but the sexual graphicness.
Yeah.
I absolutely would not.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're very close friends, and even I would blush watching this with you. It's one of those things which is kind of like,
It's a
I'm
guilty
gonna watch
pleasure,
it, but I don't
It's a
want
guil-
people to watch it with me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a guilty pleasure where you should have your carton of Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah.
This is a guilty pleasure show. You should do it in the privacy of your own home so that you can make the expression and the oohs and the ahs and the blushing or the smiles or the laughs without any judgment being made, right?
Yeah. Doors locked, curtains drawn, lights off, warm weighted blanket around you. Because
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to know the things that are making me laugh in case they look down on
Yeah.
me for it.
That's absolutely right. It's absolutely not because you are embarrassed watching it with someone else. It's that you don't want them to know what you think is funny, because some of the stuff that you laugh at, it's like, I don't want people to know that I found that really, really funny.
Exactly. So in that regard,
Yeah.
must subscribe only
It
because
is.
they've still
Yeah.
nailed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Who's your favorite character?
It's a toss up between Frenchie and I don't know,
Oh.
actually. It's hard to say I have a favorite. It's probably Frenchie. It might be Kimiko.
Why those two? Walk me through it.
I like the relationship they have with each other. I really like the brother sister kind of thing they have with each other. Look, in terms of pure humor, I still
Yeah.
think The Deep is the best.
I agree.
I think in terms of just like outright making me laugh because of how
Yeah.
stupid the situation is or how stupid he is, I think it's The Deep.
I love Ambrosius.
Exactly.
She's like, you didn't clean my tank, and now what did she say? That now there's an algae bloom in here.
Yeah.
I think The Deep is fantastic. I don't like Butcher. He's necessary. Mother's Milk, I had to Google it, and I was wondering if it was a different character.
Yeah, because he looks so different.
100% different.
I did exactly the same as you, as I went to IMDb specifically to check if they replaced him because he looks so different.
Yeah, unrecognizable. And they said, nope, it's just he lost weight and he shaved his beard. I have to say, I'm still not convinced that he hasn't been kidnapped and they just replaced him with someone else. I'll take the internet at its word that it is still the same dude, Laz Alonso, I guess his name is. Huey is solid, maybe not as solid as we've seen in previous seasons. He's still solid. Starlight looks great. Haven't really seen as much of her this year. Homelander, I think, is good. I think Sister Sage, although I don't love her as a character, or I should say, I don't want this to come off wrong. I don't love her, but I think her character was a good addition to the show, you know?
Yeah.
I think a very, very good addition. Firecracker, I'm kind of like ambivalent about. So I have to say, like, I thought the first 3 episodes, I watched kind of 1.5, got really tired. It was late. Next day I watched the other 1.5. But I agree, it's absolutely met my expectations. And I think the interesting thing now is that we're starting to get an idea of where the battle lines are drawn, right?
Yeah.
And as always, there's more than one battle line. So we see kind of like, we know where Butcher falls, and I'll put him on the same side as kind of like Mother's Milk and Huey and Starlight. But even those guys are a little bit fragmented now. And you could say that that's actually like 3 different groups, right? There's Butcher, there's Mother's Milk, and then there's Starlight. Those 3 are not entirely overlapping in terms of their goals, right?
Same with Victoria Newman, yeah?
Victoria Newman's her own team. The president and kind of the CIA are their own team.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Sister Sage is her own team.
Yeah, so I agree. I think that's exactly right. I think I expect by the end of this season, the big bad is actually not going to be Homelander. I think it's going to be Sister Sage. I think she's going to position herself in such a way that she's quote unquote playing Homelander. Yeah. Because I don't know if you noticed, but like in the first couple episodes, they went out of their way to make it like, well, you're the smartest woman on the planet. And she keeps saying, I'm the smartest person on the planet. So I think it's kind of like she's going to get fed up of being downplayed by these guys. Yeah. And either she's going to turn on them or she's going to play them against each other and take over.
Yeah. I was reading something online that was really interesting. You know, like in their first conversation, she kind of compared him to Caesar. Remember?
Yeah, that's right.
But Caesar was undermined, right? By his
underlings. Exactly.
Yeah. So someone pointed out online, I mean, Caesar is obviously a very famous historical reference. So, I mean, it's hard to compare him to anyone else. But if they were really using that historical comparison intentionally, then she was saying, hey, you're the big boss now, and eventually I'm going to topple you.
Yeah. Or she's going to get the rest of the 7 to basically throw him under the bus.
Right. I don't know how much else we have to say about the show. I mean, without giving away like every single joke and detail, but I've thoroughly enjoyed those 3 episodes right now. I think it continues to be a must subscribe. It'll be interesting how this and Gen V kind of dovetail and play off each other, right?
Yeah, I actually expected to see a few of the Gen V characters in here. Yeah. But maybe they're going to be saved towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, that crossover makes sense just to give it a little bit of context, right? Because if we're looking at the timeline, it's not clear, but I would expect that what we're seeing now in The Boys takes place almost immediately after Homelander appears in Gen V.
Yeah.
And kind of like rounds up that whole cabal.
That's right.
And puts an end to that like on-campus massacre, right?
Yeah.
By that token, we should probably be seeing 1 or 2 of the Gen Vers, the ones who are in favor, like in Homelander's favor. Everyone else is presumably locked up, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe Victoria Newman makes an appearance to try to see like what the research is.
Or the protagonist from Gen V, you know, the girl who could control blood, somehow saves Billy.
Oh man, that is so smart, dude. But she is locked up, right?
Yeah, but I mean, what does that mean in this world, right? They could always try to break her out.
But dude, that is how did you put that together? That's incredible. That's a very, very good storyline. Is that if Butcher knew about her, the next storyline could be, hey, we've got to get to her. She can save me.
And maybe she can use her powers to remove the Gen V or, the chemical from your blood to make you just a normal person.
For Ryan?
Not just for Ryan, but for all soups. Because it looks like Frenchie was basically
Yeah.
working on that acid, and he's been spending his time trying to come up with a weapon that can take
Yeah.
down soups.
Yeah. I thought that episode where Victoria Newman appears at the van
Yeah.
and they try to kill her twice. And she's like, how is it possible that you guys are getting worse at your jobs?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you know, she was like so chill about it. She's like, how is it possible? Like, you've been doing this for years and like nothing. Okay, super. Do we have anything else to say about the boys then, apart from the fact that we just love season 4 so far?
So far, so good. Let's segue the good into the bad.
So we are now transitioning from Amazon to Disney Plus, and the Star Wars universe has I don't want to say intensely awaited, maybe long awaited is more accurate, or just awaited, new series called The Acolyte.
Yeah.
What did you and I know about The Acolyte before it came out?
That it takes place a couple hundred years before the Skywalker saga.
Yes. That's a limit of what I knew, which is it's somehow in the Star Wars universe and it takes place pre-Skywalker, right? Yeah. Based on this alone, your level of enthusiasm was
high because I thought, a high
it's
because
multiple
I thought
choice. It's multiple choice, but I get your answer. It's high. Got it.
High because I thought it was going to take place thousands of years before. So I thought it was going to be like when we were talking about the birth of the Force and the first Jedi or the first Sith, that kind of thing.
So I guess I didn't think about it so much. Because I didn't know it was going to be hundreds. And to be honest, I'm not really sure if I'm as familiar with the timeline as you are. I knew it was pre, and again, based on one thing only, based on the fact it was a Star Wars show.
Yeah.
I was excited, but I didn't really know what I was excited for. I just knew it was Star Wars. I love it.
Yeah.
It came out. So you started watching it. Like, show me like where your enthusiasm went after you started watching the show. You're like, all right, I got my Ben and Jerry's, I got my popcorn, I got my Gatorade. Like, I'm sitting down, I'm in my comfy blanket, lights are drawn, like ringer is off. I started it. You see all the different like Star Wars, masks and the lighting and everything. Okay, George Lucas, blah, 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 blah. It starts and your heart goes where?
I would say it started going south almost immediately. And look, I'm not saying that this is going to be a terrible show. I'm just saying that the first 3 episodes have not been encouraging to me. And bear in mind, I've given a lot of the other shows a lot of leeway. So Obi-Wan, which was widely considered not that great, I gave it a lot of leeway. All of the live action series we've received of the Star Wars universe so far, I really think the only 2 ones that are good or worthy of being discussed in like that pantheon of excellence were like the first season of The Mandalorian and Andor. Everything else has been average at best, but I give all of them a pass, or most of them a pass. This one, I'm not so sure if I'm going to give it a pass.
So first of all, I made a pause because I think the next words are really important. And that is, you and I, we would not consider ourselves the 1% authorities or fanboys of Star Wars.
Definitely not.
But because those people are incredible and hopefully they're listening, but you and I are, compared to the general population, let's call them civilians, we are more likely to fawn over everything Star Wars.
Yeah.
We are more likely to go to a Star Wars themed resort. We are more likely to wear Star Wars, in your case, a t-shirt, my case, a polo shirt.
What was that you said about the t-shirt? Star Wars?
Wearing a t-shirt now.
For our listeners, I am indeed wearing a Star Wars t-shirt.
What I guess I'm getting at is that we're not saying we're the craziest or the biggest Star Wars fans or authorities, but we're absolutely near the top, right?
Yeah, I would say we're not super fans, but at the same time, we're above average.
Way above average. I mean, we love Star Wars, right? I mean, we see everything Star Wars. Okay. For you and I to be like, that's a really bad sign. Because if you and I are like, my brother and sister, keep in mind, let's put something else in perspective. The name of your dog is Leia. The name of my dog is Solo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think if there is no better example of who you and I are as people, I think that should put it into context, correct? Okay. Yeah. Given that as context.
Yeah.
If you and I are like, this show so far is what does that mean for normal people who have a dog named Raisin, Muffin, or Rudolph, right? What I'm saying is that if the biggest Star Wars fans are kind of like, yeah, it's all right. What do normal people think? They've got to be like, turn this off. Like this offers me nothing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's exactly right. I think that this show is trying to cater to the Star Wars super fans, and it has not succeeded. And unlike The Mandalorian, which offered you which was just a standalone good show. So you didn't need to know Star Wars to understand that you were watching a spaghetti Western set in space to watch The Mandalorian. And the advantage of The Mandalorian, no wait, no baggage. You could watch it from day one and you didn't need to know anything about the Star Wars universe. Everything else was a bonus.
You watched 3 episodes are released, right?
Yeah.
You watched all 3.
I did.
I watched 90% of the first one, but I'll go ahead. Let's have spoilers. I can live with it. My concern is that already from what I see of the storyline, I'm not at all engaged.
No.
This is already run off the rails just by the first episode. Maybe it will change after episodes 2 and 3, or maybe after 10. But just after what I've seen after 90% of episode 1, like when the plot comes into focus, I'm already, dude, I turned it off before the first episode was over.
Yeah.
Is there absolutely, it could have
a damning indictment on the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we were talking about 3-body problem earlier, where it's 2:00 in the morning. I have work in 6 hours.
Yeah.
Damn it. I'm going to watch the 3rd episode. I'm going to watch the 4th episode. I'm going to watch the 5th episode. I'll worry about my workday tomorrow.
Yeah.
And in this case, you couldn't even get to the end credits.
I agree. So, I mean, I think I'm like probably like 5 or 10 minutes away from the end, but you know, like I got like a call or a message. I put it on pause. Then I was on the phone for a bit. And then, you know how it goes. Then I started like reading something else. And then I was like, oh, you know, it's almost midnight. I'll finish it tomorrow. Whoa. Like that should be a huge alarm, right?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
If I'm watching a great show, The Boys, maybe 3-body problem, and I'm getting a ping on my phone or something, I'm just going to ignore it. I chose to take that. I chose to pause it. Then I got involved in something else. I mean, Stanley Cup scores or something like irrelevant. And then I said, hey, it's like almost midnight. I'll catch it tomorrow. Like Disney should be like freaking out. Like, whoa, Ethan said he'll finish it tomorrow. He couldn't stay up 10 minutes to watch the end of episode 1. What is wrong? Hold on. Not only that, I was not at all incentivized to be like, okay, episode 1 was crazy. I've got to see episode 2 now. There's a major problem, right? If you vote with your feet, I think that Disney would be humiliated.
Yeah.
To know that a dude who named his dog Solo, whose best friend named his dog Leia, they're not compelled to continue binging the show. What did we do wrong?
Yeah.
And it's not based on a novel. It's not based on a book. It's totally independent IP, right?
Wholly original story.
Sounds like a problem to me.
It's a problem. It's a real problem. And it's got, the problem I have with Star Wars right now, and this is a problem with Disney overall, is because Disney as a corporation has made a lot of, and this is not their fault, but it's the circumstances of the politics we live in today and the world's socioeconomic or demographic changes. Disney has kind of put themselves in the forefront of a lot of, let's call it, social issues that have nothing to do with their core mission, which is entertainment, right? And I'm not saying this is right. I'm not saying this is wrong. I'm just saying that, and I'm not saying that this is them doing it actively. I'm just saying that this is the way it is. And so whether it's the fights that they've been having with the governor of Florida, whether it's their take on certain political beliefs one way or another, left-leaning, right-leaning, whatever it is, any discussion you have about their entertainment inevitably boils down to, if you like it, you're a part of the woke mob. If you don't like it, you're a part of the anti-progressive right-wing culture. And that can't be further from the truth. The problem is that you can no longer discuss entertainment for the sake of discussing just the entertainment. You know what I mean? Like, it's very hard for the average viewer to, like you and me, to just say, hey, I don't like this show. And I don't like this show for a multitude of reasons. And before we're even finished with the sentence, we've got 10 people behind us who are saying, well, you don't like this show? Guess what? You're one of us. You're one of the right side guys on the right side of history. This is, Disney go woke, go broke stance. And another 10 people who say, well, you guys are anti-inclusiveness, anti-DEI, anti-whatever. And, you guys are a bunch of jerks because of it. It's hard to talk about this without it being politicized.
Yeah, I don't see really anything political about this show. I just don't see why this is compelling entertainment for me to consume.
Exactly. And that's the core of the problem. It's not got anything to do with politics. It's got nothing to do with race. It's got nothing to do with gender. It's got nothing to do with any kind of ideology.
Yeah.
So far, nothing in this story has led me to believe that this is an interesting one.
I just kind of lost a lot of interest that it just seemed so simple.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so there's this girl and we're meant to believe that she's good, right? She saved someone in the pod and the guy says, like, we only hear good things about her, right?
Yeah.
But then there's all these eyewitnesses who say, no, but that was definitely the person, right? So we're like, oh, what happened here? Like, is she good? Is she not good? Is she somewhere in the middle? And then it was just like so simple, like, oh, well, she's got a identical twin sister.
Yeah.
Like, mystery like that.
Why reveal it then and there? They should have saved that reveal for much later.
So you know what I thought about, which was so much better? You remember Loki?
Yeah.
Like, Loki was such a good show. And Loki used, like, remember there were multiple Lokis, but they
Yeah.
all kind of like look different. Like, this was, I know that's Marvel. Marvel's a little bit more irrelevant and doesn't need to like take itself as seriously, right? There's a Loki crocodile,
Yeah.
right? Like, come on, we've seen like, that's not the Star Wars style. But I thought like it was so, like, that was the big reveal.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, oh, she's got a twin sister. And the twin sister, it's like, well, it's not in the records. Oh, like, I didn't know that. I saw her die with my own eyes. Like, that's the mystery. I just felt like such disappointment.
It was such a letdown.
It was such in episode 1. Like,
Yeah,
I was
why
just like,
reveal it then and there?
I was just like, that's the whole thing. And I guess I just felt like that whole episode went too fast. Like, what is the rush? Let's get to know this lady. I don't even know if I like her yet. What do I know about her? She's a mechanic. Then a little bit of her backstory. Like, let me know the lady. Let me like her a little bit. Even like that opening scene happened so fast. Like, let's see the lady like stalking her a little bit. Let's see her do some reconnaissance. Let's see her in the shadows, make it a mystery. It's just like she gives the lady like a quarter, says, hey, where's the Jedi? In the bar. Oh, that was like a hard bribe.
Yeah.
What? That's what you needed? She's in the bar. Why did you need to bribe someone for it? She goes to the bar. Okay, fight me. I don't want to fight you. Then they end up fighting.
By the way, that fight sequence, I got so disappointed because you brought Carrie-Anne Moss back to be a Jedi, and then you treated her like Trinity from the Matrix. That was all her in the Matrix. The only difference, she's wearing Jedi robes instead of latex.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing was just really a letdown. I think in one episode, like, don't they have test audiences, Pete? Like, didn't they say
compliance officers, man? That's what we gotta be.
No, but I mean, didn't they show the saying, okay, hey guys, this is episode 1. Like, you're 100 people. You've identified yourselves in a range of never heard of Star Wars to, named your son Luke Skywalker Jr. Like, okay, here, watch this episode. All right, now enter on your keypad, your rating. And the aggregate rating was what? That Disney said, perfect. No changes are needed. That cannot be the case. It cannot be the case.
It's an echo chamber in there. That's the problem, is that it's an echo chamber. Look, on one hand, I like that they give a lot of creative liberties to their writers and directors and just say, here's the material, go to town. But on the other hand, that leads to these kinds of things where unchecked, without any kind of checks and balances, you get this.
I mean, I'm just even as I don't know, I don't know what else to say, because I'm just really surprised. Even a director, even a writer, even the people who had the creative leeway on this said, no, I'm happy with it. I think that's how we should start this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
wah, wah.
Yeah. If this was not a Star Wars show, I don't think I would continue.
Well, here's the spoiler alert from me.
Yeah.
I don't think I am going to continue. I think that, like, instead of watching on a weekly basis like I normally would, I think I'm out. I think I will wait for the final reviews to come in 6 weeks when the last episode drops. And then I'll think about whether I want to bother catching up on it or not. But otherwise, I'm actually okay.
I mean, I will watch the second episode today. But I have to say, sincerely, if it was not Star Wars and it was just a Netflix show called The Acolyte, I would absolutely be done with it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even fake considering that I'm going to watch another one. I'd just be like, nah, it's not for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
the fact that it has a Star Wars brand to it, and the fact that you've watched 3 kind of makes me want to get on your level. So at least we can like equally say we gave it a shot. But I mean, again, I'm just not sure the Disney mindset where you and I are like the easiest audience. It's not like we're the folks saying, well, that's not historically correct. They've got the wrong robes on, and I cannot watch such a show that's got inattention to detail. We're not nitpicking about details like that. We're saying, oh, that's not the environment on Coruscant. That was blah, 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 right? We're not picking on those details, right? Being like holier than thou about that. We're saying generally, guys, you made up a story. It's not based on a book. It's not based on a game. It's not based on anything else. You had a blank piece of paper and came up with the title. You came up with every character, their name, their backstory. Like every single thing is original, right? You could have done anything. You came up with this. And I'm telling you, after I've watched the first hour of it, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
That seems really hurtful to say to someone, but it's also very true that you're supposed to be a professional. You're supposed to be the best of the best, hired by Disney. You've got all this goodwill and all this support at your disposal. And you basically came up with like a show that I would have watched when I was like a kid about a bad twin, right? Like,
yeah, that's exactly right.
That's the show. Like there's nothing interesting about that.
Yeah. It's not good. It's again, it's a damning indictment on, I don't even know who to blame on this. The director, on Kathleen Kennedy, on Disney, on Lucasfilms, on whoever needs to know.
Yeah.
This is not good.
No. I mean, there's so many other interesting things you could do with, again, Loki, I thought was a great example where I thought it was a little bit silly and irrelevant, but the multiple Lokis worked out well.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're not going to do different timelines. Star Wars isn't known for time travel, anything like that. But, if you're really going to create this story, it just seemed like after the first episode, such a disappointment.
I'm 100% with you. It's not.
Can it recover? Let's put it this way. Okay, we've talked about the flaws. It's not good, blah, blah. Can a show recover?
Depends on who the big bad is. We still don't know who the big bad is. And they did the other Star Wars thing, which bothers me to no end. They show you the bad guy, right? The silhouette of the Sith, the guy who's clearly going to be the Sith. And for no reason, he sparks up his lightsaber to show that it's a red lightsaber while standing on a rocky beach. Why? Why? Unnecessary. Leave something to the imagination. We're not stupid. We get that he's the bad guy. He was all black. He was in a mask. It's understood that this is eventually going to be the main big bad and that he's a Sith. You don't need to hammer it home with a red lightsaber.
I mean, my sense of episode 1 was that it moved way, way too fast. Nothing was left to the imagination. There was not a lot of character development. I would have preferred, and I thought that was one of the hallmarks of Mandalorian, which was a little bit slower in pace, like a spaghetti Western, but you got to really get to know characters and what they were like. And in this first episode, everything happened so fast. We saw the murder. We saw the lady as a mechanic. We saw her arrested. We saw her a very half-assed escape plan that I don't think holds up at all. Then she doesn't even escape, but she does a good deed. Then there's a crash landing. Somehow she survives, right? Like the whole thing, immediately after she survives, she finds out that she's got a sister. Like the whole thing was just like, big event, big event, big event, big event, big event, big event. No development at all. No suspense at all. No, hey, let's think about this and have a whole episode to try to figure it out. It was just like forced feeding a duck. I just felt like it was just crammed down my throat. Like, here it is, information, big reveal, big reveal, big reveal. Like, okay, I'm not enjoying this at all.
Yeah.
You're just spoon feeding, not even spoon feeding me. You're just shoving the story in my face.
And it's not even good. It's not even a good stuffing.
Yeah. I don't have any time to like even enjoy the suspense or think about it or, like wonder, like, what's the strategy here? Like, we just talked about The Boys. What's the strategy? What's going on? Do you think this is real? Who are the different factions? None of that was present in a first episode of a new show with new characters. Like, let's get the lay of the land a little bit,
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I don't know.
Boo. Just boo.
Yeah, no bueno. Absolutely no bueno. Look, I'm not going to give it a rating right now. If you want me to give you a rating right now, it's not good for Disney.
You won't like it.
Yeah, you're not going to like it. It's a skip at this very moment. But as always, I will hold off because, again, Star Wars as a property is near and dear to us. We give it the benefit of the doubt. It's getting harder and harder every year, but we still do. And we'll see where, we'll touch base on this in a couple weeks or, when it finally ends.
All right. Pete, if our loyal listeners want to agree or, unlikely, disagree, how would they do that?
You can tweet at us at F&S Podcast. You can DM us on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast. Of course, the easiest thing to do is leave a comment below, like this video, subscribe to our channel, hit the bell, any of that other usual YouTube jazz. That will help us out. Let us know what you think of The Acolyte. Let us know what you think of The Boys Season 4.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you think either of these shows is going? Where do you think either of these shows is going to end up? Always happy to hear from you.
All right. We'll have another episode next week, and we'll talk about this and more on the Films and Stuff podcast. Listeners, thank you. Pete, as always, thank you.
Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye now.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.